34 Ohio inmates, once condemned to die, are now free, living among us. That's more than the number actually executed in our state in the past 30 years. It is a startling reality uncovered by 5 on Your Side Chief Investigator Duane Pohlman. Tonight, Duane begins his exclusive investigation, Death Row to Freedom. And Duane, how did this all happen?
Well, you have to go back in time. Twice in the 70s, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Ohio's death penalty was unconstitutional. Inmates on Ohio's death row caught a huge break, given new sentences of life in prison. But no one thought they would get a shot at freedom. Not only did they get that shot, many were actually freed. On November 10th, 1975, Sergeant Detective Bill Prochaska walked into this building in Bedford Heights. He never walked out.
They executed him. They shot him once in the neck. It struck his artery, severed his spinal cord, and he was dead before he hit the ground.
Sergeant Prochaska's son, Bob Prochaska, is a police officer in Willowick. He was just 9 when his dad was killed.
I walked in, and my mom was standing there, and she said, "Your dad was killed today at work."
4 men were found guilty and sent to Ohio's death row. But 2 years later, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the death penalty. All 4 had their sentences commuted to life in prison.
They received one hell of a break when it was commuted to life in prison. At least my mom thought, hey, they're going to spend the rest of their lives behind bars.
But quietly, one of the 4 would get yet another break. In 2003, Duran Harris, the driver of the getaway car, went before the parole board and was granted freedom. Officer Prochaska says his family was never even told about that hearing, something the state is required to do. Did you ever get a chance to say, hey, you need to keep him in there?
Never.
Until 5 on Your Side began investigating, Officer Prochaska didn't even know where Duran Harris was. I found him living here in this house in Cleveland. But the biggest surprise of all is where he now works, the city of Cleveland, here at this employment agency where he helps other ex-cons get jobs. I tried to talk with Harris, but he repeatedly avoided me at home and at work, telling me over the phone the timing was bad.
Oh, you're talking about the pending parole for the other 3.
Harris is far from alone on his journey from death row to freedom.
Oh, it's happening a lot.
Brett Van Oker, who runs blockparole.com, uncovered dozens of death row inmates who have been freed.
There's just so many, I can't even keep track of them all. It's unacceptable. It's appalling. It's disgusting.
While Duran Harris has been clean since his release, plenty of other former death row inmates who were let out have gone back to a life of violent crime.
If it wasn't for divine providence or luck or whatever you want to call it, I would have been dead right over there.
There used to be a bank. Nearly 20 years ago, Bill Bedford, a now retired Columbus police officer, spotted this man, Anthony Nesbitt, who had just been paroled after avoiding his death sentence. In an instant, Nesbitt shot Officer Bedford, who ducked. This is the original news coverage at the time. Bedford still bears the scars on his arm.
He tried to execute me. What did he have to lose? They didn't execute him the first time.
Officer Bedford, injured and bleeding, returned fire, hitting Nesbitt 5 times. Nesbitt survived and has been serving a life sentence.
Just because of a legal loophole, they turned him loose.
Anthony Nesbitt is up for parole again next year.
One heck of a man.
Back in Northeast Ohio, Sergeant Bill Prochaska's memory lives on in memorials, inside and out, and in a son who follows his father's footsteps.
There's times I'll ask for guidance, and I know he's listening.
And Officer Bob Prochaska says he's sure his father would want him to block paroling the 3 who remain in prison, who are still trying to gain a path from death row to freedom.
As long as I'm talking and walking, they're going to have this fight for me.
Now, the 3 other men involved in the murder of Sergeant Detective Bill Prochaska are all up for parole in the next year. By the way, if you want to read more about this case or even sign a petition to block that parole,
We put a link on newsnet5.com.
Duane, I just have to ask you, why is the parole board releasing these inmates?
Well, it's a very, very good question. It's probably the biggest question of all. Tomorrow night at 11, I'm going to go one-on-one with the chair of Ohio's parole board, and the answers she provides may surprise you. It's really an interesting, fascinating interview.
This is really, you uncovered something that we all need to know about.
Absolutely.
Thank you.